recent video has been making the rounds on Russian websites. The footage claims to be that of a UFO, but what's different about this is the way in which the UFO was captured. The story allegedly goes that there was a UFO that made contact with our planet, and when it did, very strange pieces of metal could be found around the site. One man who witnessed the event unfold quickly made his way to the scene. Once there, he noticed that no one was around, and so quickly collected some pieces of debris from the site. The object he picked up was described as being a type of metal-like crystal. However, when he looked through this, he was surprised to see ships in the sky. He even managed to record one craft through the crystal. After the video and images were uploaded online, many claim that these ships don't want to be seen, and that they use a type of energy field. Other UFO researchers said that because the metal was from a UFO ship, it allowed a person to see the invisible ships. However, others have said the story seems a little far-fetched, and what we're seeing here is just a CGI UFO. Regardless, there's others who believe that UFOs do disguise themselves, and that when you use things like night vision cameras, these crafts become visible. There's some that claim this is the reason why some people don't notice unidentified flying objects, and that whoever is piloting these crafts use this technology for abductions. One interesting account is that of Gabriela Versace. Often described by UFO researchers as one of the first alien abduction reports made in the United Kingdom, the abduction of Gabriela Versace demonstrated the almost apathetic nature of humanoid aliens, and what they seem to be capable of when it comes to the experimentation of human beings against their will. First reported on the 16th of October back in 1973, a woman by the name of Gabriela Versace claims to have been taken on board an alien spaceship. According to the alien abduction account, Gabriela was driving down the motorway, passing by the Langford Budville exit outside of the small village of Somerset in England. She noticed that the motorway was completely deserted, except for the blinding glare of a single headlight that appeared to be in the distance remaining stationary in its position. As she continued driving forward, getting closer to the bright light, her car suddenly lost all power, and her engine completely stalled. Uncertain as to the cause of the sudden engine stall, Gabriela exited the car and lifted her car hood to fix what could have been the issue of the car suddenly losing power. It was at this moment that Gabriela claimed that a large hand suddenly grabbed her by the shoulder and forced her to the ground in front of her car, as an overwhelmingly loud humming sound could be heard at a deafening sound. As she fought against her unseen attacker, she turned to face the figure only to see what she described as a tall metallic-coloured humanoid that appeared to be far more robotic than human. It was at this moment that the robotic figure began to flash what she described to be a multicoloured flickering lights that floated in front of her view. She slowly felt herself losing consciousness as the flickering multicoloured light came into view, causing her to black out beside her car. After an unknown period of time, Gabriela awoke in an empty field, already standing alongside the robotic figure that stood beside her, and a strange bright object that seemed to float nearby. She once again heard the humming sound, before passing out to the bright object that floated nearby, that also seemed to have been generating a loud humming noise as it levitated. As she got a better look at the unidentified flying object, Gabriella described the craft as being shaped similar to that as a half moon or dome, with a rounded top and a completely flat bottom. The levitating craft's colour was silvery grey, and the entire craft extended out thick legs that it appeared to rest on. Although she could only see 2 of the extended legs, Gabriella believed there was more than 2 legs, as she said that these did not appear to be able to support the craft alone. Standing on its metallic legs, the craft appeared to be more than 20 feet in height, with 40 feet in diameter, having large oblong-shaped windows in the middle of the dome-shaped craft that poured out the bright light of the craft. Overwhelmed by the spacecraft, the robotic figure and her abduction, she would black out for a second time before walking up inside the craft itself. According to Gabriella, when she woke up inside the craft, she was in what she described as a completely circular room, and was forcibly struck down to an examination table that was located in the centre of the room. Despite being covered in a light blue blanket made of an unknown material, she was bound to the examination table with large rubber bands that forced her limbs apart and held down her wrists and ankles. As she glanced around the room, she felt as if the room was artificially cooled, with her body freezing on the metallic table, shivering in the cold. She noticed the robotic figure standing inactive towards one of the walls of the room, while a console sat to the right covered in a wide number of buttons and dials. She took special note when memorizing her surroundings, trying to find any significance in their creation, including memorizing the floor of the room, that she described as being covered in what appeared to be a dark-coloured rubber matting. After a period of time of being restrained, 3 figures entered the circular room carrying boxes and cubes. Each of the figures appeared to be around 5.5 feet tall, slim in build, wearing face masks, skull caps, tunics, long gloves that went up to the length of their elbows, and extremely long aprons that fell to their ankles, with every piece of their clothing being light blue in colour, with emotionless humanoid eyes that were far more rounded than any normal human beings. It was at this moment that the figures began performing a series of medical examinations on her body, including gathering hair and nail samples, taking vials of her blood and prodding her in different areas with probing equipment. As the procedure took place, Gabriella noticed that the humanoid figures never breathed or talked to each other throughout the entire examination, merely looking and nodding to each other occasionally. However, throughout the procedure, as she made several motions with her head towards the robotic figure, one of the 3 figures began to tell her what the purpose of the robotic humanoid was. They described that the humanoid was indeed a robot, and was tasked with the sole purpose of finding and retrieving specimens to be studied, and it would not be active again until the end of the procedure. However, as the figure spoke to Gabriella, she noticed that its mouth did not seem to move, and no air seemed to be exhaled as it spoke, believing that it was possible that the figure was communicating telepathically with her throughout this examination. However, once the explanations were over, the nature of the exam became far more sinister. According to Gabriella, although she refuses to describe the event in detail, she claims to have been attacked by the figures. After the procedure was over, the robotic figure flashed multicolored lights once more, causing Gabriella to fall asleep once again. However, this time she woke up outside of her car on the deserted road. Completely distraught, she quickly got into her car and found out it was working again, with no issues whatsoever. She then drove home and immediately filed a report as to the impossible to explain UFO encounter and alien abduction event. So what do you guys make of this UFO sighting and the strange report made by Gabriella? Be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comment section below, and help us by growing this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.